Hi class, this is Miss Burkholz.
Hey guys, it's Mrs. Klein, and we are here with your first podcast of the year for lesson 1, which is entitled From Republic to Empire. If you guys want to follow along in your history books, we're starting today on page 15. And for each lesson, you guys, there's a guiding question, and this time the guiding question is,
Did the benefits of Roman expansion outweigh the costs?
so by the end of this lesson, you should be able to give us a nice, thorough answer to that particular question. As always, there's also vocabulary terms that you need to be familiar with. This time they are
Caesar Augustus, Civil War, Dictator, Julius Caesar, Pax Romana, Punic Wars.
All right, we're going to start with the introduction, you guys. All right, I just want to remind you guys, last year, at the end of the year in 6th grade, you guys totally learned all about Rome. So some of this might sound familiar to you. And then we're going to talk about a little bit later on what happens when Rome is not that big, strong power anymore and things start to fall apart. That's what our whole first unit is all about. All right, the expansion of Roman power occurred over approximately 500 years, from 509 BCE to 14 CE. At its height, the Roman Empire included most of Europe, together with North Africa, Egypt, much of present-day Middle East, and Asia Minor.
By 14 CE, the Republic was just a memory. Power was in the hands of a single supreme ruler, the emperor. In this lesson, you'll see how this dramatic change occurred. You'll trace the gradual expansion of Roman power. You will also explore the cost of this expansion, both for Romans and for the people they conquered.
All right, you guys, so moving on to section 1, which is From Republic to Empire, an overview. The first period of expansion, or becoming larger, began in 509 BCE. The Romans wanted to protect their borders and to gain more land, which led to a series of wars.
During the second period of expansion, from 264 to 146 BCE, Rome and Carthage fought 3 major wars. Through these wars, Rome gained control of North Africa, much of Spain, and the island of Sicily.
So they start to grow, they're getting bigger and bigger. All right, the third period of expansion. During the third period of expansion from 145 to 44 BCE, Rome came to rule the entire Mediterranean world. In the west, the Roman general Julius Caesar conquered much of Gaul, which is modern-day France.
Roman generals were becoming dictators and setting their armies against the power of the Senate. Caesar himself ruled as a dictator for life until he was assassinated in 44 BCE. Then Caesar's grandnephew Octavian seized total power. The Senate named him Augustus, or Honored One. Rome was now an empire governed by one supreme ruler.
All right, the fourth period of expansion. The fourth period of expansion began with the start of the empire and lasted until 14 CE. Later, emperors continued to add more territory, so that at its height, the Roman Empire stretched from the island of Britain in the northwest to the Black Sea in the east.
Okay, now we have lesson 2, Rome's conquest of the Italian peninsula, 509 BCE to 264 BCE. So in 493 BCE, Roman leaders signed a treaty or agreement with their Latin neighbors to the south. Then, in 390 BCE, Rome nearly came to an end. A band of Gauls, a warlike people from the north, crushed a Roman army and surged into the city.
The Gauls looted the city, burning most of it down. The Romans considered fleeing, but instead they bravely decided to start over by rebuilding their city and surrounding it with walls, basically to help protect them. During the 300s BCE, Rome conquered the Etruscans and many neighboring tribes. And as Rome's territory expanded, the city had to maintain a large permanent army to defend it and the conquered lands.
By 264 BCE, Rome had more citizens and well-trained soldiers than any other power in the Mediterranean world, but very soon the Romans would face their greatest challenge yet.
All right. Section 3, you guys, is called Expansion during the Punic Wars from 264 BCE to 146 BCE. All right, during Rome's second period of expansion, it fought 3 savage wars for control of the Mediterranean region. In each of these brutal wars, Rome's enemy was Carthage, a powerful city-state in North Africa.
Rome's wars with Carthage are referred to as the Punic Wars, after the Latin name for the people of Carthage. The First Punic War began in 264 BCE and was fought mostly at sea. The Second Punic War started 23 years later when the
Carthaginians, yep, you got it,
decided to attack Italy itself. For 15 years, Hannibal's men fought the Romans in Italy. In 202 BCE, Hannibal needed to return home to defend Carthage against an attack by a Roman army.
And I think you guys will probably remember that Punic Wars because I'm pretty sure you learned about it last year when you were in 6th grade. All right, so let's talk about the Third Punic War. It lasted 3 years. In 146 BCE, the Romans burned Carthage to the ground. And the Punic Wars expanded Roman power and territory, but Rome's victories came at a price.
Starting with Lesson 4, expansion during the final years of the Republic, 145 BCE to 44 BCE. So by the end of Rome's third period of expansion, the Republic collapsed. The final years of the Republic were marked by still more wars. Rome also had to fight to subdue slave revolts. A slave named Spartacus led a famous revolt in 73 BCE. After crushing his army and killing Spartacus in a battle, the Romans sentenced thousands of the surviving rebels to death on crosses.
Dang. All right. 40 years later, another civil war erupted between two ambitious generals, Pompey and Julius Caesar. Both men wanted to control Rome, but Pompey had the support of the Roman Senate.
Encouraged by Pompey, the Senate forbade Caesar to enter Italy with his army. Caesar disobeyed in January of 49 BCE. After 3 years of fighting, he defeated Pompey. The frightened Senate named Caesar dictator for life. With Caesar in control, and after nearly 500 years, the Republic came to an end.
All right. Caesar had a vision of Rome as a great empire. However, he did not live to see his vision come true. On March 15th, 44 BCE, a group of enemies stabbed Caesar to death as he was entering the Senate. The men who killed Caesar thought they were saving the Republic, but they were wrong.
Lesson 5, Rome becomes an empire, 44 BCE to 14 CE. Caesar's murder plunged Rome into civil wars that lasted over 10 years. When the fighting ended, Caesar's grandnephew and adopted son Octavian was the sole ruler of Rome. So began the Roman Empire and Rome's fourth period of expansion.
All right, to gain power, Octavian had to defeat jealous rivals, one of whom was Mark Antony, a popular general. Antony had married Queen Cleopatra of Egypt. In 31 BCE, Octavian defeated Antony and Cleopatra in a sea battle near Actium, Greece.
He ruled for life as Caesar Augustus, and historians called him Rome's first emperor. Augustus encouraged education, art, and literature.
And under Rome, the Mediterranean world was mostly at peace for 200 years, a period which is called the Pax Romana, or the Roman peace. All right, you guys, that was a lot of information. Here's a quick lesson summary. We read about 4 main periods of Roman expansion. In each period, the costs of expansion were great, yet the Roman Empire lasted 500 years.
We read about the conquest of the Italian peninsula. The first period of expansion began in 509 BCE. The Romans rebelled against the Etruscans, and Rome became a republic. The Romans then conquered central Italy, which they controlled entirely by 264 BCE.
All right, next up is the Punic Wars. During the second period of expansion from 264 to 146 BCE, Rome fought Carthage in 3 Punic Wars. As a result, Rome gained North Africa, much of Spain and Sicily, and Rome also conquered Macedonia and Greece.
The final years of the Republic, during the 3 period of expansion from 145 to 44 BCE, Rome took control of Asia Minor, Syria, Egypt, and Gaul. However, civil wars divided the Republic. Julius Caesar made himself dictator for life. Then Octavian seized power, becoming the first emperor, Caesar Augustus.
Last but not least, Rome becomes an empire. The fourth period of expansion began with the start of the empire and lasted until 14 CE. The emperors continued to add a great deal of new territory, and at its height, around 117 CE, the Roman Empire stretched from Britain to present-day Middle East. All right, you guys, I just want to remind you guys one more time that guiding question: did the benefits of Roman expansion outweigh the costs? And then you want to be really familiar with the vocabulary. We're going to have a podcast quiz coming up real soon. Vocabulary terms are Caesar Augustus, Civil War, Dictator, Julius Caesar, Pax Romana, and Punic Wars. See ya.
See you guys soon.